Hi guys, in this video, I'm going to go over chapter 6 in our lecture, so price controls. Now, we don't have many price controls in the economy, but we do see them from time to time. Okay, so these are some extreme cases of economic control in the US economy. They call price control. Okay, so there are two types of price control. They're called price ceiling and then price floor. We're going to go over each of them in this class. So first, let's look at price control. So price control is an attempt to set or manipulate the prices through government involvement in the market. So it's basically a government setting a limit on what the price can be. So either the high limit or low limit. So at the high limit, it's called a price ceiling. So this is the legal maximum price on goods and service. And then the low limit is called a price floor. That's the legal minimum price on goods and service. Now, again, we don't have many of this. One example of a price ceiling is called a rent control. And then one example of a price floor that you can think this like the minimum wage. So how much wage can be paid. All right, so for price controls, let's look at price ceiling first. So for price ceiling, there's three different situations. There's a non-binding price ceiling, a binding price ceiling, and a long-term effect of a price ceiling. So for non-binding price ceiling, let's suppose we have this bread market, and then currently the price for the bread is at $1, and the government says the price ceiling, so this is the price ceiling, the maximum price ceiling is going to be at $2. So what kind of effect would this have on the market? So remember, price ceiling is the legal maximum price. Then you cannot go over that. So as long as you're below the price ceiling, you are doing okay. So for this situation here, our ceiling, the maximum is $2. And then currently we're below that. We're at $1. That means we're doing fine. We don't have to change. So for this situation, when the price is less than the price ceiling, let me write this out. So price ceiling, no change will happen. Then nothing will happen. The market will stay at $1 and then everything just like before. That's why this type of ceiling is called a non-binding price ceiling. It will cause no change in the economy. Okay, so one more time, if your price ceiling is set above your equilibrium price, we call this a non-binding price ceiling. Nothing happens. It's thinking like a speed limit. So imagine if you drive on the highway. Let's suppose right now your the highway you drive on usually goes about if a speed limit is 60 and you actually drive 65, right? That's called speeding. But imagine tomorrow, government says we're going to increase speed limit. It's not 60 anymore. It will be set at 160. Now, you're at 65 will be okay now, right? Because you don't have to change anymore because you're already below the limit. So that's the ideal price ceiling, a non-binding price ceiling. If the price ceiling is placed above equilibrium price, it's already, so your current price is already below the limit, we're doing fine. We don't have to change. So it's called a non-binding price ceiling. Okay. Now the next one is called a binding price ceiling. So binding price ceiling is anytime if your price ceiling is placed below equilibrium. So let's suppose right now we have this equilibrium price of $1, and the government says the minimum price must be at 50 cents. And now you're gonna have this binding control. So the price of $1 is not good anymore. It must go down to 50 cents. So at 50 cents, your quantity demanded right here at a lower price is more than quantity supplied at a lower price, and then we have a shortage in the economy. So for a binding price ceiling, it will cause the price to go down and it will cause a shortage in the economy. Now, when you have a shortage in the economy, you're actually going to have a black market. That means there will be some consumers who want to buy the good, but it's not there anymore. So in the black market, the price will be at $2. That's how much the buyers are willing to pay for how many quantities you have. So for this $2 price, imagine there is a bidding war between different consumers. So you go to the counter, you want to buy the bread for 50 cents. Another person go to the counter, want to buy the bread for 50 cents. There's not enough bread for everybody, right? So what you can do, you can buy the bread, and then later on resell the bread outside the store, but you wouldn't sell for 50 cents. You can sell for a higher price of $2. So that's the black market price. Okay. All right. Now, the long-term effect of a price ceiling is that when the time is allowed to adjust, the shortage will be expanded. There will be a bigger shortage for the market, because when the price is low, buyers want to buy more of it, and then sellers want to produce less of it. So as the time goes on, the shortage will become bigger and bigger, with a binding price ceiling in the long run. Now for rent control, we don't have rent control in most of the country, but if you look at market, let's say in San Francisco or New York City, they do have rent control apartment, because for those areas, rent can be very expensive, and everyday folks just cannot afford it. So there'll be a certain neighborhood where government set what the maximum rent can be. Now that's a good idea, because with rent control, we can make those apartments more affordable to regular people, but it does have some unintended consequence. So the first unintended consequence is that there might be a reduction in the quality of apartments. So let's say if I'm a landlord and I'm forced to charge a lower rent for this rent control apartment, I wouldn't be happy, right? If something goes wrong, I might not fix it because it costs me too much money. So one result might be that this might cause the quality for our apartment to go down when you have a rent control apartment. Second, the landlords might put on more fees in the market. So imagine we said, hey, if you miss your rent, you're gonna pay me like $100 fine, or if you break something, you're gonna pay a fine for it. So the landlord might try to get the money from somewhere else. And then this rent control apartment, when you try to reduce your rent, this might also reduce incentives for developer to develop more apartment in the market, because the rent is so cheap, nobody make any money out of it. So in those situations, you can actually hurt the people try to help, because imagine if I'm a tenant, that before rent control, when I pay a higher rent, I still had an apartment to live in, but now with rent control, there are less number of apartments available. I might not have a place to stay anymore, right? So that actually hurt me. So rent control does have some unintended consequence, okay, with a binding price ceiling. So in the long run, when both the buyers and sellers become more flexible, when you have a binding price ceiling, it will cause a bigger shortage in the economy when they become more flexible. All right, now price gouging, that means so it's a temporary price ceiling imposed during emergencies. But price gouging is when sellers try to take advantage of certain situations and then charge a very high price. That's called price gouging. So imagine if there's a natural disaster, some of the sellers might want to increase the price on gasoline or increase the price on bottled waters because everybody had to buy it. So we actually have laws against that. We have laws against price gouging. They call price gouging law. So anytime when the governments declare a state of emergency, by law, sellers cannot increase price. They have to charge the same price just like before the emergency. Okay, that's called price gouging law. This happened in Houston, Texas too. So whenever there's a hurricane come over, government always declare emergency. So your stores, your gas stations have to keep the same price like before the emergency. Okay. All right, next, price floor. So price floor is the legal minimum price on good and service. And then one example for that, think about minimum wage is a price floor. So again, there are situations, so non-binding, binding, and a long-term effect. So for non-binding, so imagine we have this price for milk. So right now the price for milk is $3, and then government says the minimum price will be at $2. So what kind of effect this might have? Well, you know what? That's okay, because from price floor is the legal minimum, right? So as long as your price is above legal minimum, you don't have to change anything, So our $3 is okay. We don't have to change it because it's already above our price floor of $2. So this is called a non-binding price floor. It will cause no change in the economy. Now, however, if your price floor is higher, they'll become a binding price floor. So imagine the government says the price floor will be set at $6. But now we got a problem because our old price of $3 is too cheap. It's not legal anymore. So to be legal, we must increase our price from $3 to $6. But at $6, this is our quantity supplied. Here is our quantity demanded. We're going to have a surplus of the economy. The producers want to sell more, consumers buy less, and you have a surplus of good. So a binding price floor will cause a surplus in the economy. Now, in the long run, once both the buyer and seller become more flexible, you're going to have an even bigger surplus in the economy. So for price controls, either the price ceiling or price floor in the long run is very detrimental to the economy. It will cause either a big surplus or big shortage. Okay. Now, why do we still have them? Well, for minimum wage, we try to provide a living wage for everybody who's making minimum wage. Because really, right now, guys, at $7.25, that is not a living wage. Because for many people, if you're making minimum wage at a full-time job, you cannot support yourself, right? So we call that not a living wage. And also, if you compare the minimum wage today at $7.25 to minimum wage back in 1960s, which was only about $1.25. Now, of course, your $7.25 is more today, but remember, back in 1960s, everything was cheaper, right? So your $1.25 in 1960s is actually $10 today. So our current minimum wage is less than the minimum wage in 1960s. That's why many people has been asking for a higher minimum wage. At least just try to keep up with the inflation, because right now the minimum wage is too low. And many smaller market in the economy, they're actually having a higher local minimum wage. So San Francisco has a higher minimum wage. Seattle has a higher minimum wage, $15. The New York State is having a higher minimum wage. So many smaller areas are having their own higher minimum wage. But at least right now for national level, it's still at $7.25. Okay. But one thing about the higher minimum wage, a high minimum wage will cause unemployment, because this surplus, remember we call this surplus, right? So surplus, a surplus of labor, that's just unemployment. That means you're going to have more people who want to work, but company hire less people at a higher wage. You're going to have more unemployment in the economy, which can also be very bad. So again, this is another one of those unintended consequences. So you try to have a higher minimum wage benefiting everybody, but at the same time, you can also hurt those people, because companies reduce employment at a higher minimum wage, and then they actually cause many of the people who had a job before, but now they don't have a job anymore because company will move the job somewhere else. One thing you guys can think about those new McDonald's you can go into. So when you go to a new McDonald's, you're going to see a screen we can order food from. Now what that is, that screen just replaced an employee behind the counter. So employee making higher minimum wage is more expensive than the screen. So that's one strategy company has, try to reduce cost, but that will cause more unemployment in the economy. Okay. All right. So that's just non-binding. We don't have to talk about this. It costs nothing. All right, so guys, that's it for this chapter. So very short chapter. Okay. So if you have any question, let me know. And I will see you guys for chapter 7. All right. Bye-bye.